Ladies, let's talk. It's not uncommon for you to be going out with a guy and not be sure where you stand, not even just on the first date, but the second, third, fourth, even several months into the relationship. In this video, what I want to do is give you 5 signs that he's truly just not that into you, whether he's being manipulative and evasive about it and really just kind of keeping you on the hook in case things don't work out with someone else and you're a backup plan, so there's intention there. Or maybe sometimes guys really don't understand their own feelings and he's just not sure if he's that into you, which again is also not good. So whether it's intentional or not, these are signs that will work. And let me save you the months and even years of figuring out if this relationship is worth salvaging. You should know, boom, right off the bat, very quickly. I'm a big fan of saying get through the duds, right? There's a lot of duds out there. Now there's definitely something to be said about not giving guys enough time to blossom into the relationship, but you don't need 4 months or 6 months or even 3 months to figure out if the guy's committed and interested in moving on with you into a beautiful relationship. So sign number 1, inconsistency with attention. If a man is dating you right off the start and he's busy one week, or he's hot and heavy with you, but then he just kind of goes cold, that's not him being busy at work. Unless he travels, right? And he's, a doctor who goes from country to country helping different people, and he's in the Peace Corps, and he has no access to a cell phone and no access to email, which I don't think exists these days. But unless that's happening, it's nonsense. If a man is into you, he will let it be known. There's no such thing as playing cool over a long amount of time. That's why if you ever, I might be dating myself, but if you're in your 30s or 40s, you probably heard of the movie Swinger about guys playing it cool by waiting 2 days or 6 days to call. That's the most. And men need to tell each other those rules if they want to play it cool. Now, I'm not a big fan of playing it cool. I'm a fan of actually being cool and having a life and having, things on your plate, both as a female and a male, right? A man and women should also have lives, friends, careers, family, relationships in their lives other than the person that they're dating, that they enjoy, passions and hobbies and things like that. But you should also be able to make space. If you don't have time, if you don't have the intent to make space for someone, a new person in your world that is going to be your primary anchor relationship, you have no business having a intimate romantic relationship. The general rule, I actually got this from a commenter off of a YouTube video, and I used to kind of say, well, maybe this or that, and she said it so plainly and I loved it, so thank you so much. She said, look, if a guy can't reach out to you after 7 days, he's not worth your time. There's no excuse for not getting back to someone for 7 days, for a whole week. I mean, unless the guy's been in prison and the one phone call he's got is to his attorney, there's really no excuse. And by the way, do you really want to date someone in prison? So even that guy, no excuse, right? Unless the guy's in a coma or something, in which case they come back to you, and whether you're available or not, that's just fate. That's kismet, right? It's not your fault if you thought he was out of the picture and somebody else came in and swooped in and you're in a happy relationship. If you're available and there's a legitimate explanation, fine. But otherwise, get out of there. Number 2, if you always feel like you're the one chasing, that's not good. Okay, that's not good. It's not a bad thing to start, to initiate. It's not a bad thing to sometimes be the one that asks the man out. In an ideal world, I think men should be men and women should be women, and men should be the one pursuing the woman. I do think that that's the ideal. I definitely did that in my own relationship. And if I'm talking to men, that is exactly what I tell them to do, is to be decisive, be a leader, and to take charge. But let's face it, a lot of men are broken today. And so if you want to initiate to speed things up and get through that kind of awkward, sticky period where it's like, do I have to play cool? I listened to too much Andrew Tate and all these weird guys, and the misogyny is kind of deeply planted. I don't know. And so they're kind of in this weird world where they don't know what the real etiquette is. Fine. So you want to help them along? No problem. But if you're the one that's always making plans, or most of the time, that's not good. That either means that the man's not into you, which is a big red flag, or they have gotten some horrible advice, or they're unsure about how they feel. In any event, none of that is good for you. So just move forward, right? Don't let that be. Just have a boundary. I'm not chasing. I don't mind initiating. I'll even initiate half the time, but they got to step up to the plate. If not, they're not into me. I need to realize that. You can't be in a relationship with someone who doesn't want to be in a relationship. I had a mentor, a rabbi, who once told me that the strength of any relationship is defined by the person who wants it the least. And obviously he was talking on a more spiritual level between man and God, right? Because God always wants the relationship. But if you say, I'm not so interested, I'm an atheist, guess what? That's the reality of the relationship. There's no relationship there. And it applies twice as much to human relationships, right? If someone says, I love you, and the other person says, I just want to be friends, the person who wants it the least defines the relationship. So if they're not chasing you, they're defining that I'm not ever going to chase you. Take that as a serious sign. Red flag number 3, if he talks about the future, so he is comfortable talking about the future, maybe even including you in those future plans, but there's no follow through. If he just talks a big game, but there aren't steps in that direction, right? Oh, well, when we start going out every week, or multiple times a week, and it's still just once a week, or I want to get to the part of the relationship where we call each other 6 times a day and text each other and just like, you know where I am and I know where you are, and we're just really excited to talk to each other, and yet he only calls every once, or 1 or 2, 3 days apart, and that's it. That's no follow through, right? Talk is cheap. Talk is cheap. It's great. Sometimes cheap is good. Sometimes you want cheap ice cream just to scratch an itch. You don't always have to go for super premium. Sometimes a little bit of that cheap Rite Aid or thrifty ice cream with the cylinder cone is good, right? It's like, yeah, that's yummy. It's not always got to be Haagen-Dazs. It's fine, right? It's exciting. It's a quick fix, but there has to be follow through. If it's just that empty air ice cream with air bubbles, then that's why it's so thick. There's no quality. There's no consistency. Once in a while, it's fine. It's good to get your appetite going, right? But you do need to move on to something that you could sink your teeth into. By the way, if you're a woman in your 30s and 40s and you're looking to develop a relationship, attract the right kind of guy, and then build a relationship that's exciting enough that you are seriously considering marrying the guy, this is probably a good channel for you to subscribe to. So go ahead and click that subscribe button, the little bell notification. I release videos just about daily, and I'd love to have you here and back again for new topics as they come. Let's talk about red flag number 4. So red flag number 4 is a little tricky because it deals with your own internal reality. And so there's a chance that this is a red flag from a guy, but there's also a chance that this is something you need to work on yourself on an individual level. You'll understand when I actually say it, right? So number 4 is that you don't feel safe talking about your needs and your boundaries. So technically speaking, you should always feel safe talking about your needs and your boundaries. And if you don't feel safe, you just walk away from the relationship. That's where you want to get to once you're in a relationship and before. But to me, it's mandatory. If you don't have a sense of how to assert your own emotional safety, you're never going to be happy in a relationship completely. You might be happy for 10 years, but there's always a stress test in a relationship. And if you don't know how to get your own emotional safety in a relationship, sometimes those are the couples that come to me 15 years in and say everything was great, and then suddenly someone had an affair or there was financial betrayal or something. It's because there was never a stress test. You need to learn how to get your own emotional safety and not be dependent on a guy. Now, that being said, if you feel resistance, if every time you want to talk about a need, the guy says you're being too demanding, or come on, men aren't like that anymore, or you're being crazy, those expectations are too high, or if you assert a boundary and say, I don't want to do that, and he says, come on, you're being too unreasonable. If there's resistance there, or dismissiveness, or the person's trying to guilt you into feeling bad about your needs and boundaries, that is a huge red flag that the person is not into you. When someone is into you, what does that really mean? It means they respect who you are and they want to honor your individual personality, your hopes, your dreams, and your boundaries and needs are part of that. If the person is trying to change your boundaries or needs, that is akin to them saying, I don't really like who you are. I like parts of you. So I'm going to try and change this over here. That boundary that you have, I don't really like it. So I'm going to push on that. That need you have, I think that's a little bit more than I can give, and I'm not interested in bending. So I'm going to make you bend, right? That's another way of saying I'm not into you. I'm into an idea of who you can be. That's not good. You don't want to be married or have a relationship with someone who likes the idea of you. You want someone who actually likes you, who loves you. So that's a big red flag to watch out for. And then the fifth red flag I want you to watch out for is timeline based. Okay. So if you're dating a guy and things are going pretty well and pretty consistent, and you want to take the relationship to a much more exclusive, serious level, whatever that definition is for you, whether that's sleeping together or moving in together or making it exclusive, whatever it is, if you're on the more religious or traditional or certain age groups where you're like, let's get the show on the road, it might even be engagement at this point. 2 to 3 months. That's really what it is. If the man is saying, I'm still figuring things out 2 to 3 months, guess what? He's figuring it out because he's not that into you, right? Or it is possible, like most things on this list, it has nothing to do with you and he needs to see his own therapist and figure out stuff. But in which, if that's the case, you shouldn't hang around for that necessarily, right? 2 to 3 months is more than enough. If you've been on, let's say, a date every week, pretty minimal, right? 1 date a week. In 2 months, that's 8 dates. In 3 months, that's 12 dates at a minimum. Remember, some months have 5 weekends, right? So it's at least 8 and as many as, let's say, 14 dates. If you can't figure out, I knew I was going to propose to my wife within 7 dates. Right? It's too much. Now listen, we're not all as decisive. Sometimes people need a little bit of time to kind of get completely, their feet completely grounded. So if your expectation is to get proposed to in 2 to 3 months and the person says, let's be exclusive and let's talk about maybe moving in together in 2 to 3 months and what that timeline looks like, there's room to wiggle there. Okay. But there should be a progression, and 2 to 3 months is more than enough to know if something is worth taking it to the next level. If you're not getting that from a relationship, then you're not really in a relationship worthy of continuing, and get out of there. 2-3 months, it's still early enough that if you break it off, it's not going to completely crumble your heart, right, to smithereens, and it's not short enough where you feel like I didn't give it a chance. That's a good amount of time. Okay. Now, if you are in these new stages of relationships and you're interested what emotional phases men are at through these different, critical beginning stages, I've put together a guide that might be helpful for you. It's the first 90 days, what the emotional reality is for most men over the first 90 days of a new relationship. You can get it by clicking the little download link in the the about section of this video. I'll leave a link there for you. And if you're interested in learning how to get over the games, you want to know how to make a man miss you without resorting to trickery or games, I've made a video for you that you can watch by clicking on the thumbnail that appeared on your screen just a few seconds ago.